Hey everybody, welcome to another video, and in this wait, yep, you're right, absolutely. Sorry, I forgot about the music point that people raised in the previous video. I'm going to change that right away. People were also complaining that the gameplay's a bit samey, so here's a picture of a rock. And in this video, I wanted to talk about what I want from the story, because people were asking for it. Can't bear to look at that rock any longer. I'll talk about what we know about the story, which isn't very much, and I'll talk about what I would like to see, how I'd like to see it, things like that. So, stick around for the video, it should be an interesting one, I hope. But before we begin, I promised you some fresh music, didn't I? Okay, maybe not quite what you had in mind. Alright, okay, I'm gonna stop with this joke and just start talking about what I want to talk about. So, yeah, here goes. So, in short, I want a really good story. Don't we all? Let me elaborate. So, I want a story that is compelling, good, fun, and is emotionally attachable when it comes to feeling attached to the character in question, which is Bayek. According to Ashraf Ismail, the game will be based around Bayek's journey, it's Bayek's story, so in reality we should be getting attached to Bayek as a character if they do him right, which I have a few doubts that they will, because they seem to be very confident in their game, and I reckon that extends to its narrative. Because this is Bayek's journey and Bayek's story, having a great character is essential to the story, so the character has to be great, he has to be relatable, attachable, not necessarily relatable to every extent possible, but relatable in minor ways, minor things. You have to understand him, and I feel as if that's something that you need to do, otherwise it just won't work, especially with this journey thing. They want to do that, and I reckon they can pull it off. Another thing we know about the story is it's going to be about Bayek adapting to the changing world, which means, again, there are similarities between the story in Assassin's Creed Origins and Assassin's Creed 3. In my mind, Assassin's Creed 3 started off with a really strong story, and towards the middle and end, it sort of washed out quite a bit. And that's something that I don't want to see happen in Origins. See, if the game's going to be about the protagonist adapting to the world as it changes, then a lot of character progression is definitely necessary. I feel as if Assassin's Creed Origins' similar story, which would have been Assassin's Creed 3, really struggled to progress Connor as a character too much, but that's just my opinion and how I saw it. You may have seen it differently, which is perfectly fine. But in Origins, it seems as if they're going down a similar path story-wise, but hopefully the character is a little bit stronger to accompany for such a stressful sort of story arc to go through, because it's probably not an easy undertaking to make a character suited to such a story. So character progression is essential. Now, another thing we know is that the game will start with Bayek solving some form of puzzle, like a mystery sort of thing, like investigating something. Basically, the entire game is going to be based upon mysticism and mystery. Or at least a good part of it is, and you know, it's ancient Egypt, I really wouldn't have it any other way, so I won't argue with that. But I suppose I'll expand on my point here. The game needs to thrive narratively on these mysteries, these puzzles, these things that Bayek is trying to solve as he's adapting to the changing world, the changing of ancient Egypt into a more modern historical Egypt, stuff like that. That would be very interesting to see. And considering what's been said, I reckon that's exactly what we will see. These mysterious things going on as we're getting through the story, and Bayek's changing and adapting on top of that, so it sounds like a good story to me. One thing I definitely want to know in the story is about Senu, how this bond between Bayek and Senu came to be, how the controllable eagle business goes about happening, things like that. I want to know what that's about, because, yeah, I'm just quite curious, really. And I feel as if that's a bond that really needs to be explained. I say this because Senu is probably going to be one of the more important things in the game. Now, the story is in a game that's an RPG, so the RPG elements should affect the story in some way. So this means that if you involve yourself in the open world and do side quests and things, that should somehow add to the story in some way. That'll be very interesting as well. Not necessarily to the extent that games like The Witcher 3 would do it, because obviously being Assassin's Creed, it's structured in a way that requires a more linear narrative. However, minor effects on the story would not be a horrible thing. In fact, it would be pretty good to have. However, major effects on the story based upon what you do in the side quests, I understand that that would probably affect the Assassin's Creed elements to the linear narrative that they want to tell in some way, but at the same time, they want to tell a narrative that's more open, but they have to mix that into Assassin's Creed at some point and draw some form of line. However, it would be cool to have some effect on the world as you do things, and then for the world to in turn have an effect on you and your story and your individual story, not just Bayek's story, but yours as you explore this world in your own way. One thing that I can say is definitely something that affects previous Assassin's Creed games for me is that the story does somehow feel a bit separate from the open world. With Assassin's Creed Origins, I am hoping that this isn't the case and they sort of merge together a little bit, if not too much, because obviously Assassin's Creed has this structure that works for Assassin's Creed, and I know they want to change it up, and they're changing it up a little bit to work for the RPG elements, and I'm not going to complain about that, but obviously the main story will have to follow a certain path that might not be as open as side missions say. As far as the modern day is concerned, now there's only really one thing that I can say. I know that they have something up their sleeve ready because they seem confident when talking about it and shooting it down, especially Ashraf Ismail. He says they're listening to fans, which means I can imagine that the modern day will be playable and it will be returning, or at least it'll be interesting in some way. However, what do I want from the story in the modern day? Well, I simply want it to actually go somewhere. Because since about Black Flag, really, it feels as if they've been stalling a lot with the modern day, because in Unity and Syndicate, not much really gets done. A little bit does get done, but not quite as much as we've seen in the games before that. And when I say not much, I mean a lot. But that's okay. I find myself having faith that Ubisoft won't let us down this time, and they will give us some form of modern day that is really good and works with the story and progresses the story of the overall Assassin's Creed a little bit, and I'm excited to see what that's about. Moving on, I understand that Assassin's Creed Origins will have a heavy focus on exploration and the open world, and obviously the story will factor into this quite a bit, but as Ashraf Ismail stated, they want the players to get lost in the world. Now I hope that this doesn't mean the story is going to have a bit of a back burner, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't, because Ashraf Ismail isn't shying away from answering questions about Bayek's story, what it's about, etc. He's been very vague in talking about certain points, but that's more to keep it under wraps so it's a surprise as opposed to actually keeping anything from us. And by that I mean he's probably not covering up a lack of presence, and we can only hope that the story is just as good as the rest of the game. Another thing I'd really like the story to do is be heavily involved in ancient Egypt itself, which I know it will be because it's about ancient Egypt changing into a more modern historical Egypt that we know probably in more recent history as opposed to ancient history. It will be kind of hard to experience these changes in the game if we don't explore the morals, standards, and how life was lived in the beginning of the game and the end. So obviously that change will be explored, which means the standards of living and everything that we know about ancient Egypt will probably be explored in a great amount of depth. Another thing that the story will have to encompass is actually the founding of the Brotherhood, which means that it's imperative that this is done the right way. I think it'll be very interesting if Bayek were to be contacted by the first Civ in some way, and Bayek sort of, as stated by the notorious Dynamite, sees through them, as opposed to what other assassins we've seen do, which is take their message and get confused about it. So it'll be interesting to see an assassin, or the founder of the Assassin Brotherhood, technically an assassin, essentially know what's going on, know what's up, know who to trust and who not to, and found a brotherhood basically based on these beliefs. So as far as first Civ involvement goes, that's basically what I'd like to see. Now, of course, as we know it in previous Assassin's Creed titles, where there are assassins, there usually are also Templars. So, will they be in Assassin's Creed Origins? Yeah, I'd hope so. Obviously, they'd have to be there in some form. I mean, we're exploring the origin story of the Assassin Brotherhood as we know it. I'd imagine we'll also be exploring the origin story of this Assassin-Templar conflict. And if they don't necessarily want to explore that in Origins, I'd imagine they'll probably wind up doing a trilogy with Bayek just so that they can explore this conflict and how it started, because I'd imagine it probably started very early on in the existence of the Assassins. And I do believe that an early form of the Templars will be present in Assassin's Creed Origins, and I suppose it'll be cool to see an early version of their beliefs, or at least see them form their beliefs. And I reckon that'll be one of the mysteries that Bayek is trying to unravel as he's going through what he's doing with hunting down these people, obviously the early form of the Templars or whatever. He's going to learn their secrets, their plans. He's going to learn why, basically. He's going to learn why everything's happening, and I reckon that'll be cool. But there you have it, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching this video about me talking about my wants for the story. Obviously, you may disagree with me, you may have a differing opinion to me, you may have expansions that you want to add to my opinion. Please go ahead, use the comment section as that's what it's there for. Thank you all so much for watching, hope you enjoy. Be sure to go ahead, leave a like, subscribe, share, comment, etc. And I will see you all in the next one with another video at some point. So yeah. So,